welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, today we are discussing the farmers' protests against the farm bills that have been brought in by the government. The issues that they have raised are plenty, but I think what they're really focusing on is, of course, a couple of them. One is, of course, that they're not very happy with the inclusion of private players into the mandi system. They feel that the private mandis would actually, in fact, what we are being given is the example of what Jio did to BSNL. That the private players will come in, they will, play with the pricing, and the government mandis will go out, and then the farmers will be left with the monopoly of the private players. How justified is this is something I'm going to be discussing with the panel of experts. Also, the demand for the inclusion of MSP. The farmers want that in writing. The government says, well, MSP is actually a state or administrative decision which can be done at the state level and not at the central level. At which point the farmers say, then why bring in these bills at the central level? The government, of course, as you know, since agriculture is a concurrent subject, they brought these bills in basically as under the trade and commerce headings and not really as of agriculture bills. So that's another point that I'm going to be discussing. How legitimate are these issues? What can be done? Is there a middle way out? Those are some of the things that I'll be discussing. Joining me on the panel is R. Jagannathan. He is the editorial director at Swarajya. Pranjal Sharma, he is the author. He's a policy wonk and also the author of India Automated and Kranti Nation. In fact, we can see the books right there, Pranjal, for all of us to see. And Aditi Phadnis, she's a political editor at Business Standard. M.K. Venu, he is the founding editor for the Wire.in. Mr. Jagannathan, before I begin with the issues, I read your article recently where you wrote about the power of protests, and the BJP and the power of protests, because we've seen you compared this to the CAA protests. This government is not one that really negotiates, but are the farmers' issues but we've seen them, it seemed to be that they are willing to come halfway. So are the farmers raising an issue? Does the government think it has erred? Will it comply? What is the reading on the ground?
Look, for some people, this government can do nothing right. So that's all right. I mean, that's part of the political position. I'll make 4 basic points. One, farmers, whenever a law changes, people who have been living under the previous regime will feel uncomfortable because you don't know what the new thing is going to bring. So apprehensions are understandable on the farm of farmers, and that's perfectly all right. So the government needs to reassure them that nothing that they already had will be lost. This is an opportunity. Now they have to convince that. Second thing is, there will be vested interests who benefited from the previous policy. So they have now renewed vested interest in destroying what is being done. Then the third thing is, there will be some loopholes in the law in any case. There is no law in India anywhere since independence where we have not had a law that was bang on with no mistakes, no loopholes. And so you can always correct that. The last thing is the problem, which is that there are some people who think this government is illegitimate, it has no right to exist, and therefore any protest that can be escalated and created to make sure that this government eats humble pie and feels attacked is good. That's what started with the CAA protests, which was completely, according to me, illegitimate. An effort to give persecuted people an early track to citizenship is in no way against India. They mixed up the NRC issue and then deliberately stirred the pot. They are doing this again now because there are legitimate issues that farmers have to need reassurance on. But there are a lot of things that merely can be done with improved law, maybe some changes, which if you say that, no, you must repeal all the laws first, then we will talk. Then there is no play. It is the farmers who are taking intransigent positions, not the government.
Okay. Venu, your first thoughts on the protests that are going on. Prime Minister says, trust me. So why are the farmers not trusting him?
See, Priya, my view is that, number one, the CA and farmers' protests are apples and oranges. They cannot be compared at all. So I'll tell you why. Because the farmers have been talking about the problems with the bill for some time. 3 months now, the government had time to sort of talk to them. And now Mr. Modi keeps saying that they're being misled, they don't understand. So obviously the question is, why couldn't Mr. Modi explain this to Badals, his own Akali Dal, to his own allies? Yesterday, Prakash Singh Badal even returned his Padma Vibhushan. So now the point is, what are the apprehensions? I agree with Jaggi that they have apprehensions and they need to talk about it. They need to discuss in detail, which they are doing now. Now, my point is, this could have been done earlier. the way it was pushed through in Parliament could have been avoided. There could have been a discussion. And Priya, I want to make a larger point, which is Indian agriculture needs a lot of resetting. We need to have a comprehensive discussion with India's farm leaders on crop diversification, whether Punjab should grow rice, the way we are exporting water while exporting rice, the environmentally sustainable agriculture with a certain minimum income assurance to farmers is an issue which needs to be discussed. Now, when Modi came to power in 2014, he started with an assurance of 50% return to farmers over their costs, and then BJP kept shifting the goalposts. The cost became they kept saying MS Swaminathan should be implemented. Swaminathan clearly spoke about comprehensive costs. Then BJP started talking about their own version of cost. They removed the rental value of land from the cost, and then they shifted the goalposts again to doubling of farm income. Now, so that led to a loss of trust. Now, the point is Mr. Modi needs to rebuild trust with farmers, first and foremost. In my view, it is not about the technicality of this law or that law. Mandi system has been useful. I'm willing to believe that a new form of trading can also be experimented, but you have to discuss with the farmers. We need more mandis. The Bihar experiment showed that 2006 mandis were done away with, but the farmers are still getting 40% below the MSP, for rice in Bihar, etc. Because there is no MSP system. And it's a fact that 90% of the farmers, even today, are selling in to private traders. So they're not selling it in mandis. It's at farm gates, So there are multiple realities. It's very complex. All I'm saying is there's a need to discuss with farm leaders on how to make sustainable agriculture in India possible. And Priya, we need not follow this whole, another last point I want to make is this whole 1991 moment, describing these farm bills and 1991 moment is totally erroneous, because agriculture globally, even free markets in US, Europe, farm incomes up to 40%, 40 to 50% farm incomes are subsidized by the government. Agriculture is nowhere in the world has agriculture been governed by the so-called free markets. Agriculture has been progressively has had to be subsidized. So therefore, I think it's important that Mr. Modi lays down a 10-year roadmap for India's farm sector, sit with farm leaders and say that this is the roadmap you will follow. These are the subsidies that you'll get over the next 10 years. Those subsidies can be WTO compliant. They need not be in the form of MSP. They can be in the form of other WTO compliant subsidies, which the West has been giving. So that is what is needed, which is totally missing. So here we have a situation where there's sudden, without discussion, farm laws are bought. People feel ambushed. States feel ambushed because agriculture is state subject. Then Punjab does what it did, completely nullified the Central Act by bringing its own law. Now these things could have been avoided if there was a discussion. That's
the
all
method is, I think, what Venu has more of a problem with. Pranjal, in fact, you also wrote for the Daily Guardian that it's not the farmers who are protesting, but the middlemen. So you really think that, even who have spoken to the government, they're also saying it's 2.5 states ka protest hai, Punjab, Haryana, and maybe half of Western UP. So the fact is that do you see this movement as representing a pan-India movement, or is it just some vested interests that are upset?
So, I'll build on what Jaggi and Venu said. Look, firstly, agriculture is the country's largest private sector. To say that private sector is going to enter, doesn't make any sense, because it has always been the largest, unorganized perhaps, but largest private sector. That's part one. The system was such that there were a huge rent-seeking category which was created, which was a monopoly. So mandis by themselves are not a problem, but monopoly of a mandi is a problem. Any monopoly is a problem. If you have 10 mandis, if I'm a farmer and I want to sell to 10 mandis, I should have the choice to sell it to 10 mandis, right? The problem was that under law, you could only sell it to the particular mandi and whatever price was set. Now, who wants to lose $1 billion a year, right? I mean, if you look at it, the RTRs just in Punjab alone are making $1 billion per year, and that's so. Therefore, because it's more of an agrarian state, it is more to lose. They are far more organized. They are the haves who have the voice. only 6% of farmers get the MSP in any case. 6%, like 94% people don't even get that. So what are we talking about? So in the end, the impression one is getting is that this is the people who have everything, who are getting everything, and because it's been taken away, they're wailing. I don't agree with the argument that, it wasn't discussed. As farm reforms have been discussed for the last 40 years, if not in the last 25 years of reform. Even, there is a video of Kapil Sibal in Parliament arguing for the same reforms. Bharatiya Kisan Union has argued for the same reform. So I would separate the reforms and the laws with the protests which are happening. The laws and the reforms, I think everybody accepts it, even in this panel, that yes, we need these laws. Yes, they may not be perfect, but they are directionally the best way forward. And things improve over time. The protests are very different. I think the reasons for protests are not as much about the law, but as much about protecting their own interests and their own earnings, and a system which is completely shifting to a new place. And then, of course, it's very easy to create fears and say that your land will be taken away, you will not get any MSP. But if every producer in the country is free to sell their product to anybody, any consumer, why should one category of producers be limited? And if you want to compare it with European and other developed countries, the fact is that land holdings are much bigger over there. You do not have small and marginal farmers. You don't have tenant farmers. We have a completely different system. So we also need to go to a level where people will focus on productivity. Our biggest unemployment or disguised unemployment is in agriculture sector. People just don't leave, and the farm holdings keep fragmenting and fracturing. Therefore, productivity is bad. I find it personally as a consumer and a citizen shocking that when you go to your local market, you get fruits and vegetables from Thailand and apples from USA, but our own apples and other fruits and products don't make it even across the country. Forget about going abroad. Now, if we want to achieve those kind of goals, we have to go through this pain of transition.
Aditya Pranjal said that he remembers Kapil Sibal arguing in favor of reforms. We've also seen a video of Sushma Swaraj going viral on WhatsApp where she's arguing to what the Congress are saying, that MSP should be protected. So political leaders are playing politics. But the end, I think are you happy with the way the direction, at least the protests, whether they are, sponsored or agenda protests, but at least they've got the people onto the negotiating table. At least that has happened. Or you think that's the talks had already happened even before this?
Well, I don't know about negotiating table, but this much I can say that history teaches us that it teaches us nothing. So you had exactly the same painful procedure, the same painful sequence of events which happened when the government was trying to amend the land reform, the land acquisition laws.
Right.
You had massive protests, you had people airing their own views about what it should be and so on. And finally, after 1.5 years, the government then went back to the position that it had started from. So surely by this time, they should have learned that, how to do reform when you have to do it. That's number one. Number two, while Jaggi is absolutely right that yes, there are people who believe that this is a problem of lack of communication, and it's a problem of when this government reviews the changes it has made in delivery systems, Prime Minister Modi meets, wherever he goes, he meets what are called Labhartis, people who have been beneficiaries of the changes that he's brought about.
Mr. Jagannathan, you heard the arguments. I think everybody kind of agrees that yes, reforms are needed, various degrees, but the way it has been handled is not something that could have been handled better.
See, in India, there is no way that can be said so perfect. You don't do anything, people will say the way you have not done anything is bad. If you do something, people say the way I have done. People make the good the enemy of the best. We had a GST, nobody could find a movement. Finally, they said we'll guarantee you 14% increments every year to all the states. Finally, it got done because some politician was willing to stick his neck out and get it done. Yes, he may be regretting that promise today in COVID times. But the fact is, if you want to get anything done in India, it will always be messy compromise. I don't agree with the argument that, you keep on communicating and something will fall into place. It doesn't happen. In India, everything is a guerrilla action. 1991 was not discussed with the whole country before Manmohan Singh did his reforms, nor was everything else is there. In fact, the minute you do a reform, there is immediately a pushback against it. But whoever, even guys who earlier, Congress has put this farm reforms in its manifesto, and as soon as it's put, they're against it. I mean, so this is the kind of politics we have, and let us not be thinking that just because you've discussed it a lot, suddenly people are going to be very reasonable. Indians are not reasonable people. They like opposing whoever is willing to do something positive. Okay, so IBC, you'll say, oh, it was not conceived well. Oh, Aadhaar, it was not conceived well. GST, not conceived well. Nothing was ever conceived well in this country. Okay, even Manrega was not. Okay, it took us 5 years to fix that bloody thing. So my point is, why do you think that the farm laws are going to be any different? So the point is, now that you have the laws passed, it's easier to pass the changes and improve it. That is the way things work in India. Anybody who's seen any law, except in the time of Indira Gandhi and Nehru, where there was no opposition. Today, when you have a robust opposition, anything that the government does, good, bad, ugly, it will be opposed. Okay, so let's not presume that anybody, including the government, has very clean hands in this. The only way to get moving is to find a coalition of the willing for the short term, get the law passed somehow, and then start making incremental changes. That is how
But the
India
law has
works.
been passed, so now is the time for those changes.
Yeah, it can happen, because now the negotiations happen. He says, look, I don't like this clause, I don't like it. They always change it. That's what happened with IBC. That's what happened with GST repeatedly. So it's a 5-year plan. Any law takes 5 years to settle down.
The interesting thing, Priya, I find is, hello?
Yeah, let me get Aditi and before her thing freezes. Aditi, you're making a point actually. Your last point on you saying the government should have maybe communicated. I think you were making that point.
Yeah, I think there is a problem of communication with this government on a variety of issues. And, there's no point hopping up and down and saying that all laws that this government makes will be opposed. I mean, we saw even 370, something as sensitive as 370 was supported by those who are opposing it outside Parliament. So, that is not the issue. The issue is when you do so much quality assurance, you do so much quality check about your policies, well, what's the harm in doing one about this also? You needed to have done that, right? Before you.
But is it also Priya and Aditi, because BJP is weak in Punjab? So I mean, if the whole thing is in Punjab, BJP doesn't have a lever to actually control or even
they're not
communicate.
Haryana, and their own.
That is true.
Even the Haryana, their own leaders are saying that MSP should be worked into. There should be some minimum MSP. In fact, the Bharati Kisan Sangh National Secretary Mohan Sharma has told a TV channel that he believes that there should be a MSP both inside and outside of mandis, and I believe that is what is being negotiated now. So it does it mean that the BJP did not talk to its own Sangh Parivar's Kisan body?
Jaggi, you wanted to come in before I get back to Venu?
Yeah, just one line. The point is, I just want to look at the land bill. Okay, it went into a select committee, never came back from it. That became its graveyard. Okay, so I don't agree that a great amount of communication gets you a good law. You will get a messy law. Let me tell you that. We did that nuclear liability bill. Manmohan Singh agreed to everything that the BJP did. As a result of that, the law didn't work. Not a single nuclear fellow came there because they made the liability of the nuclear partner so high that nobody wanted to come. So the point is, the minute you make the law compromises, it never works.
Where in the world is any nuclear plant being opened? Please tell me.
No, we wanted it. But I am saying no law has actually worked when it has come through consensus.
It's not viable. Don't blame the law. Don't blame consensus.
But on MSP, Priya, I think we also have to you're looking at only one constituency, which is farmers. But what do you do if you raise the minimum price for every agricultural product? What does it mean for consumers? What does it mean for inflation? What does it mean for the entire country? So you are, it's like saying that I will raise the salaries of only the public sector people because our taxpayers will pay them because we have to keep them happy. But in the end, who's paying the price for it? So there's got to be a balance. And it's not just about the farmers. Of course, they're doing a great job of producing, but there is an ecosystem around it. There are people who are value adding. There are people who are producing. There are manufacturers. Now, a manufacturer will say, I need a minimum price to sell a bottle of jam. Now, somebody else will say, I want to have a minimum price to sell toothpaste. These are all essential items. Now, where do you say that this is an essential item, this is not, and why should any one producer be promised minimum price while others should not. Even so, today the subsidy that farmers in Punjab get is more than the average income of farmers in the rest of the country. I mean, that has been proven by statistics as well. So, why this preferential treatment? If you want an open egalitarian system, don't pander to one community or one category of producers or people. I think that's not fair.
That is the thing. Is it just becoming farmers of Punjab versus the rest? That's the narrative that is also coming out in the media in certain sections that I'm seeing. That MSP only Punjab farmers take as much as 6. The MSP goes to about the bulk goes to the Punjab.
I want to say something. Pranjal is asking why should one set of people be subsidized. You have to understand, in all global market economies, the West, US, Europe, the terms of trade over the years always shifts against agriculture in favor of industry. And the few farmers that are left in farming, they are heavily subsidized. This is the history. So this Pranjal's argument has no historical basis. Farmers, that's why I'm saying Europe and US, 40% of farmers' incomes are subsidized by the government, because you have to maintain food security. A little bit of farming at a subsidized rate. The Japanese do not want to import rice from outside. They want their own rice. The French want their own cheese. They don't want to import cheese. So whatever the costs, they will grow it there. So farm being subsidized is a reality, and we have to accept that. So the point is, the mistake that Prime Minister Modi made was, he started his 2014 campaign with a promise of 50% returns to farmers over cost. Now, he has to make good. He has to sit with the farmers and figure out how that 50% will come. Whether it comes via higher MSP or whether it comes via, WTO compliant income support. So that is what needs to be decided in consultation with the farmers. It is not a question of MSP. See, I agree that MSP is not the solution, but the income support is a solution, and you have to find a rational way of supporting farm income so that they get a minimum returns and India gets its food security and environmentally sustainable agriculture. This is the basic crux of the issue.
Jackie, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, just 2 quick points. One thing is, I agree that farming can be subsidized and the world sold. But you cannot have some 45 to 48% of the country subsidized. You have to shrink the number of farmers. So the second point, if you're going to increase farmers, double it or whatever it is which Modi promised, it can be done in 2 ways. One is to create artificial MSPs which will cost the rest of the nation and slow down and kill growth. The other thing is to provide jobs so that the farming community shrinks, then their income will double. If instead of 45% agriculture you have 25%, their income will automatically double, because they will produce more from the same land. So that logically our plan should be to shrink the size of agricultural dependence, so that if you have a 10-year plan for that, then you can actually triple their incomes. Then you can even give them any amount of subsidies, but you can't subsidize 48% of the population.
Okay, but Aditi, this is a sector that did need a looking at. So, if you rule out the way it was done, are you in agreement with the fact that, at least some steps are being taken?
Well, I don't know if the way to go is to say at least some steps are being taken. You need to do reform in a sure-footed way. So I agree with Pranjal that you need a bigger ecosystem, and you need to know what to do and what to do first and what to do second, third and fourth. You can't jump when you're doing reform. You cannot jump from A to Y, leapfrogging all the intermediate steps that you have to take. So you need to know what to do first and what to do next. I think this is where the government seems to be making repeatedly mistakes. And this is not to say that everything the government is doing is wrong. I mean, after all, the law that Punjab has passed has not made sure that Punjab government's fiduciary and fiscal interests are addressed. They haven't really made any changes to the MSP. They've just turned the entire state into a mandi. So wherever you have a transaction, you collect cash. So, I mean, those are all things that people do as they go along. But the fact is that you need to figure out the end goal of what your reform is going to be. in 1991 we learned this, that the design of the reform is as important as its sequencing. So you can't do random stuff and then call it reform and throw everybody under the bus.
Okay.
Priya,
We
can't talk about economic growth. At one level, you are accusing the government of not boosting economic growth, but at the same time, all state governments are saying, I'll give you free power and free water. Now, the cost of free power and water is not just in terms of the cost to exchequer, it's on the cost of the lands. Venu talked about sustainable agriculture. You have free water and free power. You just put this borewell pump on a field and let it run for 24 hours. Nobody has a cost to that. What is it doing? It's increasing the salinity in Punjab. Punjab's own agricultural productivity and arable land is declining because of these practices. So instead of educating and trying to improve things, the political leadership is taking things backward. Now, there is also a dimension that this is maybe Amrinder Singh's Congress play of being seen as a titan in Congress at a time that, everybody else is a dwarf. So there are clearly political issues here. So I would again separate the laws from the protests. The laws by themselves are good and they will improve with time, with negotiations, as Jaggi is saying. But also to what Aditi said, I think it's important that the protests be seen as a political articulation of what is going on between BJP and Congress, between Punjab and Delhi.
Well, we're out of time, but yes, I do agree on the terms of these laws, issues. We've seen the politicians do double speak. Congress says one thing when it's out of power, one thing when it's in power, ditto for the BJP. At the end of the day, I think the real issues are what needs to be discussed. At least that conversation is happening. So we leave it there. Thank you so much for all of you for taking part in this discussion and also for watching this show. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.